The stars had never seemed so cold. Commander Lisa Grant stood at the observation window of the starbound explorer, watching the massive station grow larger as their ship approached. Terminus Prime hung in space like a gray jewel, a neutral ground where species from across the galaxy met to discuss matters of war and peace. Today, humanity would meet the Apex Confederation for the first time. Lisa had spent 3 months preparing for this moment. She had studied every available record about the Apex, watched countless videos of their representatives, and memorized their customs. None of it made her feel ready. The Apex controlled over 400 star systems. Humanity barely controlled 12. They were giants, and Earth was sending diplomats to introduce themselves to beings who had conquered half the galaxy. Captain Ryan Blake stood beside her, his arms crossed over his chest. He was humanity's best military strategist, a man who had won simulations that others said were impossible. Right now he looked nervous. "Do you think they'll even listen to us?" he asked quietly. Lisa didn't answer right away. Behind them, the rest of the human delegation prepared themselves. 20 people representing 8 billion humans back home. It seemed like such a small number. "They agreed to meet us," she finally said. "That's something." "They probably want to laugh at us in person," muttered Lieutenant Maya Torres from her position near the door. She was young, barely 26, and she had insisted on being part of the security detail. Lisa had approved it because Maya had perfect scores in every tactical assessment. The young woman was brilliant, even if she sometimes spoke too freely. The docking process took another hour. When the airlock finally opened, they were met by a Vexian escort. The creature stood nearly 3 meters tall, covered in blue-gray scales that seemed to shift in the light. Its eyes were bright yellow, and when it spoke, its voice came through a translator device that made it sound like grinding metal. "Follow me. The council awaits." The Vexian turned without waiting for a response. The halls of Terminus Prime were enormous. Everything was built to accommodate species of different sizes, from creatures smaller than humans to beings that towered 4 meters high. The walls were made of some dark metal that seemed to absorb light, and screens everywhere displayed news from across the galaxy. Lisa saw footage of Apex warships, massive things that dwarfed Earth's largest vessels. She saw battle reports, trade agreements, and territorial maps that showed the Apex Confederation spreading across the galaxy like a stain. The council chamber was circular and vast. Hundreds of seats rose in tiers around a central platform where the human delegation would stand. Most of the seats were empty, but the ones that were filled held representatives of species Lisa had only read about. She recognized Krogar warriors with their thick armor and brutal faces. She saw Silthene hunters, thin and quick with too many joints in their limbs. And at the highest tier, she saw the Vexian leadership, including War Marshal Krathor himself. Krathor was larger than the other Vexians, his scales darker and marked with scars that looked like metals. He watched the humans enter with an expression that might have been amusement. When everyone was in position, he spoke, and his voice filled the chamber without need for amplification. "So these are the humans, the newest children to discover faster than light travel." He paused, and several members of the council made sounds that the translator interpreted as laughter. "Welcome to the galaxy. You are small, weak, and your technology is primitive. But we are not without mercy. Submit to Apex rule now, and your species will be preserved as a client state. Refuse and you will be removed as an obstacle to galactic order." Lisa felt her heart sink, but she kept her face neutral. She had expected this, but hearing it stated so bluntly still shocked her. Beside her, Ryan stepped forward. "War Marshal Krathor, we come in peace. Humanity seeks cooperation, not conflict. We have much to offer in terms of cultural exchange, scientific collaboration, and—" "You have nothing we want," Krathor interrupted. "We have observed your species. You fight among yourselves constantly. Your planets are polluted. Your technology is centuries behind ours. What could you possibly offer that we cannot take or create ourselves?" He leaned forward, his eyes focusing on Ryan. "I have conquered 17 species. Some submitted peacefully and now live under our protection. Others resisted and were eliminated. Choose wisely." Ryan opened his mouth to respond, but another council member spoke first. It was a Krogar, its voice like rocks grinding together. "The humans are too small to be useful as soldiers, too slow to be good workers, too primitive to contribute knowledge. I say we take their systems now and be done with it." More laughter echoed through the chamber. Lisa felt anger rising in her chest, hot and fierce. They were being dismissed like insects, like nothing. She wanted to shout at them, to tell them about humanity's achievements, about the art and music and literature that made human civilization beautiful, but she knew they wouldn't care. They only understood power. Krathor raised a clawed hand for silence. Before we vote on the fate of humanity, I would like to satisfy my curiosity. He looked directly at the human delegation, his yellow eyes cold. Tell me, humans, how many of your kind does it take to win a war against the Apex Confederation? 1 million? 10 million? Your entire species combined could not match our military might, so tell me this number, if only to amuse me before we decide your fate. The silence that followed was heavy. Lisa felt everyone looking at her, waiting for her to respond as the mission commander. She tried to think of something clever, something that might change their minds. But what could she say? Krathor was right. Humanity couldn't win a war against the Apex, it would be suicide. Then Maya stepped forward. She moved past Lisa and Ryan, walking to the front of the platform. She looked small standing there, barely over 160 centimeters tall, thin and young. She looked up at Krathor without fear. 1, she said simply. The chamber exploded with laughter. Even some of the human delegation looked shocked. Krathor's expression didn't change, but Lisa thought she saw something flicker in those yellow eyes. Interest, maybe, or deeper amusement. 1 human can defeat the Apex Confederation? Krathor asked when the laughter died down. Bold words from such a small creature. Tell me your name, human. Lieutenant Maya Torres, United Earth Defense Force. Her voice was steady, clear. She didn't sound like she was joking. Krathor studied her for a long moment. Then he stood, his full height making him look like a giant. Very well, Lieutenant Maya Torres. I will give humanity a chance to prove this claim. The Apex Confederation has ancient laws regarding trial by combat. If your species truly believes that 1 human can win a war, then prove it. You will face 5 trials, each designed by the Apex Council. These trials will test everything that makes a warrior great. Strength, speed, cunning, endurance, and will. Win all 5 and humanity will be granted sovereignty. You will have a seat on this council as equals. Lose even 1 trial, and Earth and all human colonies will be absorbed into the Confederation. Your people will live as subjects under our rule. Lisa grabbed Maya's arm. Wait, we need to discuss this. But Krathor continued as if she hadn't spoken. You have 1 orbital cycle of this station to prepare. That is 30 of your Earth days. Choose your champion wisely, humans, or submit now and spare yourself the humiliation of defeat. Maya pulled her arm free from Lisa's grip. She looked up at Krathor and said clearly, I volunteer. I'll be humanity's champion. No, Ryan said immediately. Maya, you can't. I can and I will. Maya turned to face the human delegation. Her eyes found Lisa's. I know what I'm doing. Trust me. Krathor made a sound that might have been laughter. Excellent. The trials will begin in 30 days. This council is dismissed. The chamber erupted in noise as representatives began discussing what had just happened. The human delegation surrounded Maya, everyone talking at once. Lisa felt like the world was spinning out of control. 1 stupid comment, 1 moment of pride, and now humanity's fate rested on a single young woman facing trials designed by species that had conquered hundreds of worlds. As they were escorted back to their ship, Lisa walked beside Maya. What were you thinking? She asked quietly. You just gambled everything on your ability to win challenges we know nothing about. Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she said, They asked how many humans it takes to win a war. I told them the truth. 1 person who refuses to surrender means everyone refuses to surrender. That's how humans have always won. Not by being stronger or faster or smarter, by refusing to quit. She looked at Lisa. I'm not going to let them take our freedom without a fight. Even if I lose, at least they'll know humans don't bow easily. Lisa wanted to argue, but she saw something in Maya's eyes that stopped her. Determination. Pure, absolute determination. It reminded her of stories she had heard about soldiers in old wars, people who faced impossible odds because someone had to stand up. Maybe Maya was crazy. Maybe this would end in disaster. But as Lisa looked at the young woman who had just volunteered to fight for humanity's survival, she felt something she hadn't felt since entering the council chamber. Hope. The ship began its journey back to Earth, carrying news that would. The news reached Earth within hours. Maya Torres, A lieutenant that most people had never heard of was now the most famous human alive. Every screen showed her face. Every news channel debated whether she was brave or foolish. The governments argued about whether to accept the terms or find a way to back out. But Maya had already returned to Terminus Prime, and the Apex had made it clear that withdrawal would be considered surrender. Maya stood alone in the training facility the Apex had provided. It was a large empty room with gray walls and basic equipment. Nothing fancy. Nothing that would give her an advantage. She had 30 days to prepare for trials she knew almost nothing about. The Apex had told her only the names: trial of strength, trial of speed, trial of cunning, trial of endurance, and trial of will. No details. No hints about what they involved. She wasn't completely alone, though. The Apex had assigned her a handler, a young Vexian scholar named Velrin. He was smaller than most Vexians, his scales a lighter shade of blue. He seemed almost apologetic about the whole situation. On the third day, he finally spoke to her about something other than meal schedules and facility rules. "You know you cannot win," Velrin said while Maya was running through basic combat drills. "I have studied your species. Humans are not genetically enhanced. You have no cybernetic improvements. You are facing opponents who have been engineered for warfare across hundreds of generations. The trial of strength alone will likely kill you." Maya kept moving through her forms, punching and kicking at invisible targets. "Tell me about the trials," she said. Velrin hesitated. "I could be punished for giving you information." "Then don't think of it as helping me. Think of it as satisfying scientific curiosity. You study humans, right? Don't you want to see how I'll approach this?" That seemed to work. Velrin moved closer, his voice dropping. "The trial of strength will be against a Krogar berserker. They are the largest and most powerful warriors in the Apex. Your opponent will likely be Kronar, the current champion. He has crushed opponents 3 times your size." Maya nodded, still moving. "Next trial?" "The trial of speed involves a Silthene hunter. The Silthene can move faster than human eyes can track. They have additional joints in their limbs and nervous systems that process information at incredible rates. You will be hunted in a labyrinth designed to favor their abilities. Trial of cunning? A strategic simulation against a Vexian commander. You will control virtual fleets in real-time combat. Your opponent will have centuries of experience and tactical training from the finest military academies in the galaxy." Maya finally stopped moving. She was breathing hard but not exhausted. "And the last 2? The trial of endurance is the Void Chamber. It combines sensory deprivation with psychological manipulation and increasing physical stress. The longest anyone has ever lasted is 8 hours. Most fail within 1. The trial of will is single combat against the champion chosen by the Apex Council. No weapons, no rules until one fighter cannot continue." The weight of what she faced settled on Maya's shoulders. These weren't just difficult challenges. They were designed to be impossible for humans. Each trial targeted something humans were naturally weak at, compared to the advanced species of the Apex. She would need to be stronger than beings built for strength, faster than creatures evolved for speed, smarter than opponents with centuries of experience, and tougher than anyone who had faced the Void Chamber before. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt a strange calm. "Thank you, Velrin," she said. "That helps. How does it help?" Velrin asked, genuinely confused. "Now you know how hopeless your situation is." Maya smiled. "Now I know what I'm facing. That's always better than not knowing." Over the next weeks, Maya didn't train the way the Apex expected. She didn't try to build more muscle for the strength trial or practice running faster. Instead, she spent hours watching videos of past Apex trials. She studied how Krogar fought, how Silthene hunted, how Vexian commanders planned battles. She filled notebooks with observations and patterns. At night, she lay in her assigned quarters and thought about her life. She had grown up in Detroit, in the ruins left behind after the resource wars. Her mother had died when Maya was 10, killed during a raid for clean water. Her father, Kyle Torres, had been a soldier before the wars ended. He taught Maya and her brother Danny everything about survival. Not just fighting, but thinking, strategy, adaptation. She remembered one lesson clearly. She had been 12, practicing knife fighting with her father. She kept trying to overpower him, to be faster and stronger. He always won. Finally, frustrated, she had thrown the practice knife down and said she would never be good enough. Kyle had picked up the knife and handed it back to her. "You're trying to fight my fight," he said. "That's why you lose. A good fighter doesn't match the enemy's strength. A good fighter makes the enemy fight on their terms. Find what they expect, then do something different. That lesson had stayed with her through military academy, through officer training, through every simulation and test. Now it would be tested against the greatest warriors in the galaxy. On the 15th day, her brother sent her a message from Earth. Danny's face appeared on the screen, older than she remembered, with new scars and tired eyes. He was serving on the defense perimeter around Mars, protecting the colonies there. "Hey, little sister," Danny said with a smile that didn't hide his worry. "So you decided to pick a fight with the entire galaxy. That's pretty typical for you." He laughed, but it sounded forced. "Everyone here is watching. Everyone's scared. But I wanted you to know something. I'm not scared. I know you. I know how your mind works. You're not going to try to beat them at their own game. You're going to make them play yours. Dad would be proud. I'm proud. Win or lose, you've already shown them that humans don't back down. But try to win anyway, okay? I'd like to see my sister again." The message ended. Maya watched it 3 more times, then deleted it. She couldn't afford to think about home right now. She couldn't let emotion interfere with preparation. Velrin continued to watch her train, and his confusion seemed to grow each day. "You are not preparing your body," he observed. "You spend most of your time thinking and watching old recordings. This will not help you survive even the first trial." "Maybe," Maya said. She was watching footage of Kronar fighting, specifically his victories. She noticed something interesting. Every fight, Kronar charged immediately. He used overwhelming force to end battles quickly. He expected his opponents to try to match his strength. Those who did lost within seconds. "What are you looking for?" Velrin asked. "Patterns," Maya said. "Everyone has patterns. The Apex have conquered hundreds of species, right? You've become very good at warfare. You have strategies that work. You have training that produces results. You have expectations based on countless battles, and that means you're predictable." Maya looked at Velrin. "You expect me to fail because I don't match your standards for a warrior. You expect me to try to be strong enough, fast enough, smart enough. But what if I don't play that game? What if I fight a different kind of war?" Velrin stared at her with his yellow eyes. "That is an interesting perspective, but it will not save you from Kronar's fists. We'll see." The final week arrived. Maya felt as ready as she would ever be. She wasn't stronger or faster than before. She hadn't suddenly gained superhuman abilities, but she understood her opponents now. She understood their strengths, their tactics, and most importantly, their assumptions. On the last night before the trials, Lisa and Ryan arrived at Terminus Prime to watch. They met Maya in her quarters, both of them looking tired and worried. "You can still back out," Lisa said immediately. "We've been negotiating. Some members of the Apex Council are willing to discuss alternative arrangements." "What kind of arrangements?" Maya asked. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. "Client state status. We'd have autonomy over Earth and the inner colonies, but we'd have to follow Apex regulations and contribute resources to their military." "So we'd be subjects," Maya said, "just with a nicer title." "It's better than extinction," Lisa argued. "Maya, please. You're going to face beings that have trained for war their entire lives. Beings that are physically superior in every way. This isn't a simulation or a training exercise. If you lose, you'll likely die, and humanity loses everything." Maya stood up from where she had been sitting. She walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Earth was out there somewhere, a tiny blue dot in the vastness of space. "When I was growing up in Detroit after the wars, everyone said our neighborhood was finished. They said we should give up, move somewhere else, start over. But my dad refused. He said that once you start giving up ground, you never stop. You have to make a stand somewhere, or you'll end up with nothing to stand on." She turned back to face them. "The Apex look at us and see primitives. They think we're weak because we haven't genetically modified ourselves or covered our bodies in metal. They think strength is measured in physical power and fleet sizes. But they're wrong. Humanity has survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and near extinction. We've done it because we adapt. Because we refuse to quit. Because when someone tells us something is impossible, we find a way anyway." The arena was larger than Maya had imagined. It stretched out before her like a vast stadium, with seating rising in tiers that could hold thousands of spectators. Today, every seat was filled. Representatives from hundreds of species had come to watch the human try and fail. Above the arena, massive screens displayed her face, her vital signs, and odds calculated by Apex betting systems. The odds of her winning even one trial were listed at less than 2%. Maya stood at the entrance tunnel, waiting for the signal to enter. She wore simple combat clothing, gray and flexible, with boots that gripped the ground firmly. No armor, no weapons. The apex had been clear that she could bring nothing except her own body and mind. Velrin stood beside her, looking more nervous than she felt. "Last chance to reconsider," he said quietly. "No one would blame you." "Yes, they would," Maya said. She stretched her arms above her head, feeling her muscles warm and ready. "Everyone watching thinks I'm going to fail. I'm not going to prove them right by giving up before I even try." The signal came, a deep tone that resonated through the tunnel. Maya walked forward into the light. The crowd erupted in noise. Some cheered, some jeered, some simply watched in curious silence. Maya walked to the center of the arena and looked around. The space was circular, about 50 meters across. The floor was flat and covered in a dark material that looked like metal but felt slightly soft under her feet. Around the edges, energy barriers flickered in transparent walls, marking the boundaries. On the opposite side of the arena, another entrance opened. Kronar emerged and the crowd's noise doubled. He was massive, easily 3 meters tall, with shoulders as wide as Maya was tall. His skin was thick gray hide marked with scars, and his arms ended in hands that could probably crush stone. He wore minimal clothing, just enough to satisfy the trial's modesty requirements because he clearly wanted everyone to see his powerful body. Kronar walked to the center of the arena and looked down at Maya. His face twisted into what might have been a grin. "You are the human champion?" His voice was deep and rough, like gravel grinding together. "I expected someone bigger." Maya looked up at him without expression. "I expected someone smarter, but I guess we're both disappointed." The crowd reacted with surprise. A few laughs echoed from the stands. Kronar's grin disappeared, replaced by a scowl. Good. Maya needed him angry. Angry opponents made mistakes. War Marshal Krathor's voice boomed across the arena. "The trial of strength will now begin. The rules are simple. Fighters will compete until one is unable to continue or is forced outside the arena boundaries. There are no other restrictions." A pause. "Begin." Kronar charged immediately, exactly as Maya knew he would. She had watched 17 of his previous fights, and he always started the same way. Overwhelming speed and power to crush opponents before they could think. Maya didn't try to block or match his charge. Instead, she ran to the side, using her smaller size and lighter weight to change direction faster than Kronar could follow. He crashed past where she had been standing, his momentum carrying him several meters beyond. The crowd murmured. This wasn't what they expected. Kronar turned, faster than Maya anticipated, and charged again. This time she ran toward him, which confused his approach. At the last second she dropped and slid under his grabbing arms, using the slick floor to her advantage. She popped up behind him and immediately ran toward the energy barrier. "Stand and fight," Kronar roared. He was frustrated now. Good. Maya positioned herself near the barrier and waited. Kronar charged again, and this time Maya stood her ground until he was almost on top of her. Then she threw herself to the side. Kronar couldn't stop his momentum. He slammed into the energy barrier with tremendous force. The barrier was designed to keep fighters in, but it wasn't gentle. Electricity crackled across Kronar's body, and he bellowed in pain. He staggered back, disoriented. Maya didn't waste the opportunity. She ran at him and jumped, using his bent knee as a step to climb higher. Before he could react, she wrapped her arms around his thick neck and her legs around his torso. It wasn't a sleeper hold exactly, because Krogar physiology was different from humans, but she didn't need to choke him. She just needed to blind him and control his movement. Kronar thrashed wildly, trying to throw her off. His hands reached back to grab her, but Maya shifted her position constantly, staying behind his head where his arms couldn't quite reach. She used her legs to kick at his center of balance, making him stumble. He crashed around the arena, roaring and swinging, but Maya held on. She was getting battered by his movements, feeling her ribs bruise and her arms ache, but she didn't let go. She steered him, pushing him toward the arena edge with carefully timed shifts of her weight. Kronar realized too late what she was doing. He tried to plant his feet and stop moving backward, but his vision was still blocked, and his balance was wrong. Maya felt the energy barrier behind them, felt the crackle of electricity in the air. She let go and pushed away, dropping to the ground and rolling aside. Kronar, still trying to compensate for her weight, stumbled backward into the barrier again. This time the shock was even stronger because his entire back made contact. He fell forward onto his hands and knees. Maya knew she had one chance. She ran at him and jumped onto his back, using him like a springboard to launch herself upward. At the peak of her jump, she came down with her elbow aimed at the back of his neck. It was a strike designed to hit nerve clusters. Something she had learned was similar across many species. The impact stunned Kronar. He collapsed face first onto the arena floor. Maya landed badly, twisting her ankle, but she pushed through the pain and got to her feet. She positioned herself behind Kronar and waited. The rules said the fight continued until someone couldn't continue or left the arena. She wouldn't attack a downed opponent, but she'd be ready if he got up. Kronar tried to rise. His arms shook with effort, but the combination of the electrical shocks and the nerve strike had done their work. He managed to get to his hands and knees but couldn't stand. After a long moment, he collapsed again. The arena fell silent. Then War Marshal Krathor's voice rang out. The trial of strength is concluded. Victory to Maya Torres of Earth. The silence shattered into noise. Some species cheered, some protested, some simply stared in disbelief. Maya limped to the exit tunnel, her entire body hurting but her mind clear. 1 down. 4 to go. The medical team checked her over. Bruised ribs, sprained ankle, various cuts and scrapes. Nothing that would stop her from continuing. They offered her medication, but she refused anything that might dull her senses or slow her reactions. The trial of speed was scheduled for the next day. Maya spent the evening studying the labyrinth layout they had provided. It was a 3-dimensional maze with multiple levels, obstacles, traps, and dead ends. The Silthine hunter would have all the advantages: speed, agility, natural weapons, and the ability to navigate complex environments instinctively. Maya didn't sleep well that night. Her injuries ached, and she kept thinking about what was coming. But when morning arrived, she was ready. The labyrinth was a massive structure built in the center of the arena. From outside, it looked like a cube made of transparent walls so the audience could watch from any angle. Inside, it was shadows and corridors and confusion. Maya entered from one side. The Silthine hunter, Zace, entered from the opposite side. The objective was simple: reach the goal at the center of the labyrinth. First one to touch the marker wins. Combat was allowed but not required. The trial began. Maya moved carefully through the corridors, checking each turn, watching for traps. She could hear Zace moving through the labyrinth impossibly fast, her clawed feet clicking against the floor. The sound seemed to come from everywhere at once. Maya had no illusions about winning a straight race. Zace could move 3 times faster than any human, so Maya didn't try to race. Instead, she started setting traps. She found a corridor with loose panels in the floor. She rearranged them carefully, creating a path that looked safe but would collapse under Zace's weight. She used pieces of her clothing to mark false trails. She found sections where the walls could be partially collapsed to create obstacles. Zace found her twice in the first hour. Both times, Maya barely escaped, diving through passages too small for the hunter to follow easily. The Silthine was toying with her, Maya realized. Zace could have caught her already but was enjoying the hunt. That arrogance was exactly what Maya needed. She found the center of the labyrinth and studied the approaches. There were 4 main corridors leading to the goal. Maya set her best trap in 3 of them. Then she started making noise, drawing Zace toward her position. The hunter came fast, sensing an easy victory. Maya ran, making sure Zace could see her, leading the hunter down a specific path. Zace accelerated, closing the distance. Maya could hear the hunter's breathing, could almost feel claws reaching for her back. At the last second, Maya dove sideways into a small alcove. Zace, moving too fast to stop, triggered the trap Maya had spent an hour preparing. The floor gave way, walls collapsed inward, and debris rained down. Zace was caught in the center of it, trapped under rubble. Maya emerged from her hiding spot and ran for the goal. Behind her, Maya sat in her quarters the night before the trial of endurance, staring at the walls and trying not to think about what was coming. The previous 3 trials had been brutal, but they had been external challenges. Things she could strategize against, opponents she could predict and outmaneuver. The void chamber was different. It would attack her mind, her memories, her deepest fears. There was no clever trick that would help her there. Her body was a collection of bruises and aches. The medical team had patched her up as best they could, but she had refused any serious treatment. She needed to stay sharp, and the medications they offered would dull her senses. The sprained ankle was taped tightly. The bruised ribs made every breath hurt. Cuts covered her arms and face, but she was still moving, still fighting. Velrin visited her that evening. He looked troubled, his scales darker than usual. "I have been asked by the council to give you one more chance to withdraw," he said. "Your performance has been impressive. No one expected you to win even one trial, and you have won 3. The council is willing to negotiate terms now. You have proven that humans are worthy of respect." "But not sovereignty," Maya said. "Not equality, just respect." "It is more than most species receive," Velrin replied. He sat down across from her, his movements careful. "Maya, I have studied your species for years. I know about human psychology. The void chamber is designed to break you. It will show you everything you fear. It will make you experience your worst nightmares while your body suffers increasing pain. The longest anyone has ever lasted is 8 hours, and that was a Vexian war veteran with cybernetic mental shields. You are an unaugmented human. You will last minutes, perhaps an hour if you are exceptionally strong, and then you will break." Maya looked at him steadily. "Maybe. But I have to try." "Why?" Velrin leaned forward, genuinely confused. "You have already exceeded all expectations. You could leave now with honor. Why risk your sanity, perhaps your life, for a title and a council seat?" Maya was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "When I was a kid, my neighborhood in Detroit was attacked by raiders looking for supplies. My father and other adults fought them off, but people died. I asked my father why they fought instead of just giving the raiders what they wanted. He told me that once you start surrendering things that matter, you never stop. That you have to decide what's worth fighting for and then fight, even when the odds are bad." She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "Humanity isn't fighting for a council seat or respect. We're fighting to prove that we can't be intimidated, that we won't bow to threats or power. If I withdraw now, the Apex will always see us as weak. They'll always believe they can push us around because we'll eventually back down. But if I keep fighting no matter what happens, they'll know that humans don't quit. That's worth more than any treaty or agreement." Velrin was silent for a moment. Then he said quietly, "You are either the bravest or most foolish being I have ever met. I have not decided which. Can't it be both?" Maya smiled, but it was tired. "Tell the council I'll see them tomorrow." The next day arrived too quickly. Maya walked into the arena expecting the usual crowds, but something was different. More people had come. The stands were packed so full that additional viewing areas had been opened. Screens throughout Terminus Prime showed the arena. Word had spread across the galaxy that a human was actually winning trials against Apex champions. Species that had been conquered by the Apex watched with new interest. If humans could resist, maybe they could too. The void chamber stood in the center of the arena. It looked like a simple black box 3 meters on each side, with a single door. Maya knew that inside was sophisticated technology designed to manipulate sensory input and brain chemistry. It would cut off sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. It would inject thoughts and images directly into her mind. It would increase pain signals throughout her body gradually until even breathing hurt. War Marshal Krathor addressed the arena. "The trial of endurance is the most difficult challenge any warrior can face. It tests not the body but the spirit, the will to continue when everything screams to give up. Maya Torres has proven herself capable in physical and mental challenges. Now we will see if she possesses the strength of character that defines a true warrior. The trial begins when she enters the chamber. It ends when she exits or loses consciousness. The current record is 8 hours and 17 minutes. Maya approached the chamber. At the door, she paused and looked up at Krathor. When I walk out of this, we'll have one trial left. I hope you're ready for it. If you walk out, Krathor replied. The chamber has broken stronger beings than you. Maya stepped inside. The door sealed behind her. For the first few minutes, nothing happened. Maya stood in complete darkness, complete silence. She could feel the floor beneath her feet, but that was all. Then gradually, even that sensation began to fade. She felt like she was floating in empty space, disconnected from her body. The first images came softly, memories from her childhood, her mother's face, playing with Danny in the ruins of old buildings, her father teaching her to fight. They were pleasant memories, and Maya almost relaxed into them. Then, the memories twisted. She saw her mother dying again, but this time Maya was older, capable of helping, and she did nothing. She watched herself stand by while her mother begged for water, for help, for anything. The guilt crashed over Maya like a physical force. She recognized the manipulation. This wasn't real. These weren't her true memories. But knowing something is false doesn't make it hurt less. The chamber was very good at its job. The images shifted. She saw Earth burning, cities collapsing, billions of people dying while she watched, paralyzed and useless. She saw Danny killed in combat, saw Lisa and Ryan executed by Apex soldiers. She saw humanity enslaved, their culture destroyed, their children raised to worship the Apex as gods, all because she failed, all because she wasn't strong enough. Pain began to creep through her body. At first it was just discomfort, like she had exercised too hard, but it grew steadily worse. Her injuries from the previous trials began to scream. Her bruised ribs felt like broken glass grinding together. Her sprained ankle was on fire. Every muscle ached. Every joint hurt. The chamber asked her questions in voices that sounded like people she knew. Her father's voice asked why she was so arrogant to think she could win. Her mother's voice told her to give up, to come home, to stop suffering. Danny's voice called her selfish for risking everything on her pride. Maya tried to focus on her breathing, but she couldn't feel herself breathe. She tried to ground herself in physical sensation, but her body was just pain without location or definition. Time became meaningless. Was it minutes or hours? She had no way to know. The chamber showed her alternative realities, ones where she had withdrawn from the trials and humanity had accepted client state status. She saw humans living peacefully under Apex rule. She saw her family alive and happy. The chamber whispered that she could still have this. All she had to do was give up. Just step out of the chamber, and it would all end. Maya felt herself cracking. The pain was becoming unbearable. The images were too vivid, too real. She couldn't tell anymore what was true and what was manipulation. Maybe she should give up. Maybe she had already proven enough. Maybe surviving was more important than winning. Then, through the fog of pain and fear and manipulation, a memory surfaced, real this time. She was 8 years old, crying in the ruins of her neighborhood after the raid. Her father sat beside her, his own injuries bleeding, but ignored. "Why does it hurt so much?" she had asked him. "Because you care," he had said. "Pain means you're alive. Fear means you understand the stakes. The people who don't feel these things are already dead inside. You feel them because you're human, and humans were built to survive feeling them. How do I make it stop?" You don't make it stop. You accept that it's there and you keep going anyway. That's what makes humans different. We don't need the pain to stop. We just need a reason to keep going through it. Maya grabbed onto that memory like a drowning person grabbing a rope. She stopped trying to fight the pain and the fear. She acknowledged them. Yes, it hurt. Yes, she was terrified. Yes, she wanted to give up. All of that was true. But she wasn't going to. She didn't need the pain to stop. She just needed to keep going, 1 second at a time. Then another. Then another. The chamber intensified its assault, sensing her resistance. The pain doubled. The images became more horrific. But Maya had found her anchor. Every time she wanted to give up, she reminded herself why she was there. Not for glory, not for herself. For every human who needed to know that they didn't have to bow to threats. For every species watching who needed to see that the apex could be resisted. Time crawled. Maya existed in a state that was barely consciousness, more endurance than thought. She stopped trying to count seconds or estimate hours. She just existed, accepting the pain, acknowledging the fear, and refusing to surrender to either. When the door finally opened and light flooded in, Maya didn't immediately realize the trial was over. She fell out of the chamber onto the arena floor, her body convulsing. She couldn't see, couldn't hear, couldn't process where she was. Medical teams rushed to her. Someone was shouting numbers. Maya woke up in the medical facility 20 hours after collapsing from the void chamber. Her first thought was confusion about where she was. Her second thought was pain. Every part of her body hurt in ways she didn't know were possible. The medical staff had kept her sedated while her brain recovered from the chamber's effects. But they had done minimal physical treatment at her earlier insistence. Velrin was sitting in a chair beside her bed when her eyes opened. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept. "You should withdraw," he said immediately. "The Council has seen enough. Even Krathor admits that you have proven humanity's worth. Accept the negotiated terms and go home." Maya tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Fire shot through her ribs and back. She gasped, waited for the pain to subside to bearable levels, then tried again more slowly. "What are the terms?" "Client state status with minimal interference in human affairs. You would govern yourselves, maintain your own military, and only pay tribute in resources once per solar cycle. It is more freedom than most species under Apex rule receive." "But not sovereignty," Maya said. "We'd still answer to the Apex, we'd still be subjects." "You would be alive," Velrin said, his voice sharp. "Maya, you need to understand what you're facing. Krathor himself has declared that he will be your opponent in the final trial. He is not just a war marshal. He is the greatest warrior the Vexian Empire has produced in 3 centuries. He has cybernetic enhancements that increase his strength, speed, and reflexes. He has combat training from birth. He has killed opponents in single combat that were twice your size and fully armed. You are injured, exhausted, and human. You cannot win this fight." Maya was quiet for a moment, looking at her hands. They were covered in bandages. She could feel the tape around her ribs, the wrapping on her ankle, the dozens of smaller injuries that made simply breathing an exercise in pain management. Velrin was right. In any rational analysis, she couldn't win. "I need to see Lisa and Ryan," she said. They came within an hour. Lisa looked like she had been crying. Ryan looked angry, though Maya knew the anger was aimed at the situation, not at her. They sat beside her bed, and for a long moment nobody spoke. "Say it," Maya finally said. "Tell me I'm being stupid. Tell me to accept the terms and end this." Lisa opened her mouth, then closed it. She looked at Ryan, who shook his head. "We can't tell you what to do," Ryan said quietly. "This stopped being about strategy or politics 3 trials ago. This is about something else now. Every human is watching," Lisa added. "Not just watching you, but watching to see what humanity does. If you withdraw, they'll understand. You've already accomplished something amazing. But if you continue..." She trailed off. "If I continue, I'm probably going to lose," Maya finished. "I'm probably going to get badly hurt or killed. And then humanity has to accept the terms anyway." "Maybe," Ryan said, "but you'll have shown them that we fought to the very end, that we didn't surrender even when we should have." He leaned forward. "Maya, I've spent my whole life studying military strategy. I know when a fight is unwinnable. This is one of those fights. But I also know that some fights aren't about winning. They're about sending a message. You've already sent that message. The question is whether you want to shout it one more time." Maya closed her eyes. She thought about Earth, about the billions of people watching. She thought about her father, who had taught her that you have to decide what's worth fighting for. She thought about Danny on Mars protecting colonies. She thought about every human who had ever faced impossible odds and fought anyway, because the alternative was surrender. "I'm going to fight. she said, opening her eyes. Not because I think I can win, but because I need them to understand that humans don't quit. Even when we're broken, even when we've lost, we get up one more time. Lisa nodded slowly. Then we'll be there to watch. The day of the final trial arrived. Maya could barely walk without assistance, but she refused help getting to the arena. She limped to the entrance tunnel on her own. Every step a small victory over her body's demands to stop. The arena was more packed than ever. Species from across the galaxy had come or were watching remotely. This wasn't just about humanity anymore. This was about whether the apex could be challenged. Maya entered the arena to thunderous noise. Some cheered for her, some jeered. Most simply watched in anticipation of seeing the human finally defeated. She walked to the center of the arena floor, her movements careful and pained. She wore the same simple gray combat clothing, now patched and stained. No weapons, no armor. Just her. Krathor entered from the opposite side, and the noise doubled. He was magnificent in a terrifying way, taller than Kronar had been, his scales polished to a dark shine, his yellow eyes bright with intelligence and confidence. His body showed the subtle signs of enhancement. Slightly too perfect movements, reflexes that seemed faster than biology should allow, strength evident in every step. He was a weapon built over centuries of genetic engineering and cybernetic improvement. He stopped across from Maya and studied her. "You should have withdrawn," he said. His voice carried across the arena without amplification. "You have proven your point. Humanity is resilient, but this trial will prove that resilience has limits. I will not hold back, Lieutenant Torres. I will hurt you badly before you fall. I want you to understand that before we begin." Maya looked up at him. "I know, I've always known. This trial isn't about whether I can beat you. It's about whether I'll try anyway." Something flickered in Krathor's eyes. Confusion, maybe, or the beginning of understanding. War Marshal Krathor's voice boomed across the arena, though he was now one of the fighters. A representative from the council made the announcement instead. "The final trial begins now. Single combat, no weapons, no rules. The trial ends when one fighter cannot continue. Begin." Krathor moved forward, not charging, but advancing with controlled purpose. Maya tried to circle, to maintain distance, but her injured ankle betrayed her. She stumbled slightly. Krathor was on her instantly. The first strike sent Maya sprawling across the arena floor. She tasted blood. The second strike, as she tried to rise, cracked against her ribs, and she felt something give way. She rolled aside from the third strike, but the fourth caught her shoulder and spun her around. The crowd roared. This was what they had expected. The human broken, the apex dominant. Order restored, Maya got to her feet. Slowly, painfully, but she got up. Krathor struck again. Maya tried to block, but his strength was overwhelming. She was thrown back, hitting the ground hard. Her vision blurred. Her body screamed at her to stay down. Getting up meant more pain, more damage. Why keep fighting when the outcome was decided? She got up anyway. Krathor paused. "Stay down," he said. "You have proven your courage. There is no shame in acknowledging superior force." Maya spat blood and steadied herself. "You asked how many humans it takes to win a war. I told you one. I meant it. Not because one human can beat the whole apex in a fight, but because one human refusing to surrender means all humans refuse to surrender. You can beat me, Krathor, but you can't make me quit." She charged at him, knowing it was futile, knowing he was faster and stronger. He caught her easily, throwing her aside. She crashed to the ground, her body refusing to respond properly now. Multiple injuries compounding. System failure approaching. She got up. It took longer this time. Her legs shook. Her vision was darkening at the edges. But she got up. "Why?" Krathor demanded. He wasn't attacking anymore. He was watching her with an expression that might have been respect, or might have been horror. "You cannot win. You are broken. Why do you keep rising?" Maya steadied herself, swaying but standing. Blood ran down her face from a cut above her eye. Her breathing was ragged. Every word cost her. Because humans have been getting knocked down for thousands of years. We've faced ice ages, predators, diseases, wars, extinction, and we always get up. We don't need to be stronger than our enemies. We just need to get up one more time, then they knock us down. She moved toward him again, not attacking, just advancing, step by agonizing step. Krathor could have ended it with one strike. Instead, he watched. "You want to know our secret?" Maya continued, her voice growing stronger even as her body weakened. It's not technology. It's not genetic engineering. It's not even intelligence. It's this. We know how to lose and keep fighting. Every species you've conquered, you beat them and they surrendered. But humans have lost battles and still won wars. We've lost wars and still survived. We've almost gone extinct multiple times and still came back. You can beat me today. You can beat 1,000,000 humans. But you'll never beat all of us because we don't know how to quit. She was close to him now, close enough to attack, though they both knew any attack she made would be meaningless. Instead, she looked up at him and said clearly, "You think strength is power. But you're wrong. Strength is choosing to get up when staying down would be easier. That's what makes humans dangerous. Not that we're strong, but that we're too stupid to stay down." Krathor stared at her. Around the arena, the crowd had gone quiet. They were watching something they had never seen before. A warrior who had clearly lost but refused to surrender. A being who was broken but wouldn't break. "You could kill me right now," Maya said. "One strike and I'm done. So do